You know, it never ceases to amaze me that I keep clicking myself out of here, but it never ceases to amaze me what every single day will bring. And when those days bring conversations about sports, mostly on social media, and people when they're wrong, especially about LSU, and they start digressing and they start saying things that they probably shouldn't have said. And then, well, Jay Johnson just goes out there and, well, wins his second national title in 3 years. And, well, then you got to backtrack because he is the best coach in college baseball right now. And, well, the ABCA agrees. LSU head coach Jay Johnson is the coach of the year, at least by the ABCA, America Baseball Coaches Association, where he was the coach of the year. But Baseball America picked Kevin Schnall, the Coastal Carolina head coach, even though Jay Johnson just beat him twice. I guess that doesn't really matter. I guess on-field stuff doesn't matter. And what's funny to me about Baseball America picking Schnall over Jay Johnson was when Danny Dickinson in game one got hit by the pitch, and they said that he tried to lean into it, and Jay Johnson doesn't lose his outright stuff on the umpiring crew, and he takes a breath, he sits back and trusts his team to win a game. Well, he showed restraint. And he showed restraint and not hurting his team by getting ejected, kind of like what Kevin Schnall did. And then you saw Jay Johnson outduel Dave Van Horn not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times this past season because he went 4-1 against the Arkansas Razorbacks. And, well, everybody tried to tell us that was the most talented team in the entire country. Look, it is well-deserved by Jay Johnson. We did a lot of things in talking about him last night, and no one in the country deserves to be recognized more than Jay Johnson for all of the accomplishments that he has and all of the great and elite things that he has done. Now, Baseball America picked somebody else. The College Baseball Colleges or Coaches Association picked Jay Johnson. The truth is that when there are going to be more times that Jay Johnson wins this award because he is the best coach in college baseball. That's not where we're going to go with the Rufino's rants here tonight, though. We will talk about football. Tonight's going to be a lot of baseball-revolved things. We're going to kind of recap the season and what got you there. You know, I posted this about when you were in Frisco in February. Remember our good friend Joy having to stream it on social media because fans couldn't watch the game. We're going to recap the season as LSU celebrates tonight their national title runs. Give probably I say around 7 or 8 key moments of the season and kind of recap it as we celebrate tonight. Now, we're going to get out of here a little bit earlier than normal. We'll get out of here right at 8 o'clock so all of us can go and watch it because I know that you're all intrigued about watching it. So am I. It's going to be really fun. So we'll do that as well. We'll break down and recap the season. Jay Johnson gives recruiting update, goes on MLB Network and talks about the plan and what they were doing. So we'll get to that as well. And at the end of the show, we'll give a brief look ahead into the football season that, by the way, less than 60 days away for week 0, just north of 60 days going into the season. So we're getting very, very close. Joel says 985 in Mandeville representing. Good to have you in here, Joel. Yes, where is everybody watching from tonight? You know what's funny? We were in Omaha this past week, and every time someone came up and introduced themselves to me, they always gave me their area code. You know, because in this show, there's 682 of you in here live right now. And what's funny about that, of all you that come in here and you watch the show and you love the show, and I greatly appreciate that you love the show, you came up to me, introduced yourself, and you're like, the 337 represent, which I got to admit, I met more people from the 337 this past weekend than probably any area code inside the state of Louisiana. So the west side of the state showing out and showing up for some LSU baseball. But I thought it was funny that a lot of you brought that up. Richard Reeves says the 870 Magnolia, Arkansas in the building says, I'm so proud of this team. Go Tigers. Yes, indeed. Speaking of the 337, there goes Charlie, who is also in the 337. Good to have you in here with us. Christopher Westbrook says, let's go. Good to have you in here with us as well. Randy, who we met at the Tennessee series, says LFG Mr. Randy, it is great to have you in here. Bomb Tech on YouTube says he wasn't complaining about them stolen strikes by Bodine. No, he wasn't complaining. Was Kevin Schnall? No, he wasn't complaining. I mean, listen, Baseball America, I do not agree. Here's the thing. I don't agree with Schnall being the coach of the year. I think that clearly deserves to go to Jay Johnson. I have no beef with Baseball America. The truth of it is I saw a lot of you like get really pissed off today on Twitter in reference to Schnall being the coach of the year. Guys, his team won 50-plus games in his first year. They won 26 straight games. I get it, but at the same time, they went 26-2 in their last 28 games. Those two losses came to LSU in the College World Series final. You did something that no one could do. In the last, since April, was it April the 22nd? No one had beaten Coastal Carolina. You did it twice. You did it twice. So you absolutely got to love it. You 1,000% got to love it. All right. Before I get to this Rufino's Rants and we get rolling here, another shout out, because last night I was told by some sources that my son and his cousins were watching the show, and I got to give them a shout out again tonight. So was my little darling girl, baby Jewel. So shout out to Ben Rufino, the man, the myth, the legend himself, Ben Rufino, to Joel Rufino, which, by the way, I will throw this out there. LSU has not lost a game since this picture over my left shoulder was colored. Now, I'm not sure if Jewel did this by herself. I think she had some assistance by her Gigi. But regardless, LSU is undefeated since baby Jewel colored that picture right there. And got to be honest with you, guys, I think Joel Rufino deserves a championship ring. LSU's undefeated. LSU's undefeated. I think Jay Johnson should give her an offer. I really do. I mean, it's because the photo went up in the studio, which we have another one here. I just haven't decided where to put this one up yet, but we have another one. We have another one right here in the studio. So basically LSU winning a national title is because Joel Rufino colored a tiger and we put it up in the studio. That's all that I know. So shout out to my kids and shout out to their cousins, Eli, Wyatt, Jonah, Bailey. I hope they're having a fun time at the beach. David's in the 985. Parody in the building. And a crawfish I caught in Parody. Oh, no. Is it in Parody? Maybe it is. Delton's in the 337. See, I'm telling you, man, the 337 loves them some baseball. And why not? You picked a great time because Jay Johnson might just be the GOAT. And he might be not even might be, but is the best head coach in college baseball. All right. Let's get to this. So there was some news that came out today. So we were not here and couldn't react to it live. We did react to this last night, but I kind of just pushed it off because there was a lot of baseball that we needed to get to. But I need to get to this before we get rolling and talking some baseball stuff. Last Friday, Bo Bentley committed to the University of Oklahoma, the 4-star quarterback. When that happened, I did not say anything. I didn't go out there and react to it because I'm like, listen, if you've been following us on the message board, if you've been following me here, a lot of people were like, well, Blake, are you going to put in a pick for Bo Bentley? And I told you no on our message board. No, I was not. You were going to have to outduel Oklahoma, and I didn't think that you would. At the current time, you didn't. So you lose the quarterback that you were after in this recruiting class, and as soon as you went after, or as soon as he committed to Oklahoma, today we got some news that I don't know if LSU fans were necessarily anticipating, because as soon as that whole situation happened, LSU reacted by offering Bryson Beaver out of the state of California and trying to get a freshman quarterback into this 2026 class. Today, Bryson Beaver has committed to Oregon. A high riser in the 2026 class is Bryson Beaver. He's been a high riser over the last couple of weeks, basically because of what he's been doing at the Elite 11 and going up and competing against some of the more talented quarterbacks in this class and outshining some of them. Here's what I want to say going into this, because we still got a lot of baseball stuff that we need to talk to, but we're going to monitor this recruiting situation. I don't know how massive of a situation it is yet that you do not have a quarterback in this upcoming recruiting class. What I would say is it does become a little bit bigger because you lost out on Bryce Underwood and you didn't get a quarterback in last year's class. Now, you went out and got Michael Van Buren from the portal. He was a freshman, now will be a sophomore. With Garrett starting, knocking on wood that Garrett stays healthy, maybe you can redshirt Michael Van Buren. You still have Colin Hurley. The problem right now that LSU finds themselves in, the situation that they find themselves in right now, is if they don't get a quarterback, which I think that they're going to try to, is that Garrett Nussmeier at the end of this year will be gone. And you will have Michael Van Buren and Colin Hurley and Juwan Johnson as your 3 scholarship quarterbacks. Even if Juwan Johnson stays at quarterback, we're going to have to wait and see. I'm going to, for the current moment, put Juwan Johnson in a situation where I don't know if he's competing for a starting job in the SEC at quarterback. With that being said, Michael Van Buren and Colin Hurley are going to have to battle this thing out if you don't go into the portal to get a quarterback again. And even if you go into the portal to get a quarterback in the 2026 quote-unquote class, whether it be portal or high school, somebody is transferring out between Hurley, somebody is transferring out between Michael Van Buren, and is Juwan Johnson, if he wants to play quarterback, is he going to stay around? If he is not playing, that will be a question. My point being is that you could be in a little bit of an icky situation when it comes to the depth at quarterback. Now, you can say, well, Blake, if we get to a third-string quarterback anyway, we're in a sticky situation, and you're right. The depth right now, looking into the future, based off of what you had with Jaden Daniels and Garrett and the depth that you had at that position, right now does not look very favorable. I understand in the 2027 class, the state of Louisiana has 2 of the top-rated quarterbacks inside the state. The problem with that is that, guys, they will not be on next year's team. And then in the 2027 season, they will be freshmen. So either you go after Pop or you go after Elijah Haven, regardless of who you get, and hopefully we do get them. I am monitoring this quarterback situation. I don't know if missing out on a quarterback in 2026 is a big deal, but it does start becoming a massive deal when I don't know if 2 of the 3 quarterbacks that are going to be on your roster post the Garrett Nussmeier era, will both of them be there? That is the question that you have to ask yourself. So you missed out on Bo Bentley. You missed out on Bryce Underwood. You then go after Bryson Beaver, and then I don't know if you necessarily missed on him because you were so late in the process, but then you kind of do because you targeted that guy. The quarterback position is a fickle one. And listen, when it comes to the portal, when it comes to the transfer portal, there is one position that you can make very good judgments on. It is the quarterback position. You had Jaden Daniels, you had Joe Burrow. That both of them you got from the portal, and both of them won Heismans. But man, you're not in a good situation there. You're just not in a good situation at quarterback from a depth perspective when you don't get a quarterback out of high school that you can develop from within. I think of some of the teams that were in the playoff last year. Now, some of them went in the portal for a quarterback, like Oregon went in the portal. So did Texas. So did Ohio State. But you got Julian Sain, who's going to be the starting quarterback for Ohio State this year. I guess you can technically say that he came through the portal as well, because he never played and never practiced with Alabama after Nick Saban retired. He went to Ohio State. So if you want to be very technical, okay, sure, he's been Ohio State his entire career. So portal or not, it doesn't really matter. I'm justifying the class of Julian Sain at being at Ohio State. Arch Manning at Texas. A lot of teams do that from the quarterback perspective from within. From within. You can have a lot of success at quarterback from the portal. But when it comes down to depth, and by the way, your starting quarterback has been here his entire career. It's going to be very interesting. And I do not know where the LSU Tigers and Joe Sloan go. I don't know what they do. I don't know their plan. And I'm not going to come out here and act like I know their plan. But when we talk about, and you guys, some of you, a vocal minority of you, come after me on social media, or you chat, or you put something in the chat during the show, and you say something to the context or the extent of I'm being negative, you're going to have to look at me in the face, and we're going to have a conversation about going into next year that your depth not being an issue. Guys, does Colin Hurley or Michael Van Buren go into the portal if they lose the job? And then where are you at? Where are you at in that situation? Now, do I think, and I say all that to say this too, do I think LSU will figure something out? Yeah, I do. They don't have a choice. But let's not act as if that the quarterback that you went in last year's class that you missed on, regardless of how you missed on them, and then missing on a quarterback in this class, technically the two that you offered and you were massively after that you missed, that it's not a problem. You may be in a situation where it works in your favor, but let's not act as if that you did not have to adjust to those situations to get where you are. You're going to have to adjust, and you're going to have to adjust quickly. And guys, quite honestly, the truth is you're going to have to flip somebody. If you want to go through the high school ranks, you're going to have to flip somebody, and you're going to have to pay. Guys, Oklahoma last year was horrible offensively. There's nothing that Bo Bentley, as an example, can go off of. Michigan was horrible offensively. You were better than them offensively a year ago. And you lost out on the two quarterbacks that you targeted. So you can be mad at me, you can yell at me, you can say all the vulgar things to me in the comments, and it's okay. They got to adjust, and they have to adjust quickly, because if they don't, they're going to be in trouble. They're going to be in trouble, especially from a depth perspective. And listen, you're going to have to go in the portal, or you're going to have to flip somebody. But regardless, the depth at the current situation, looking forward into the future, is not a pleasant one when you look at it. All right. Go hard or go home says, not necessarily worried with the portal. These 2026 QBs know the big fish is coming in 2027. Maybe they do, but here's the problem with that. A kid that you would get in the portal for 2026, let's say he's a sophomore or junior, they also know they're coming. I mean, it's fair and fine, but we can't. GH, we cannot justify you missing two. You can't justify it. It's non-justifiable. And by the way, are you gonna start Elijah Haven as a true freshman? Maybe you do. I don't know. I don't know. Name a number one overall quarterback that had massive amounts of success year one. You have to rebuild then. And I don't know if Brian Kelly is going. I don't know how he has done it before and played true freshman, but I don't know how much he would want to do that. I do think that it's a problem. I do think it's a problem. Araby, that's right. Dorian. Crawfish we caught in Araby. That's right. You're right. All right, let's get moving here. Everyone do us a favor. Hit the like and share to all those groups if you're on Facebook and to all those social media pages. You're watching us, listening to us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, notification bell, wherever you listen to podcasts, rate, review, and subscribe. Before we get rolling here, let's talk about our good friends over at Section 103, where they have more comfortable gear than those club seats that you're sitting in. Guys, I saw so many of you in Omaha wearing the Section 103 gear, especially the white hat that we have worn on this show. Guys, the national championship shirts are out. Go over to Section 103 and get you a national championship LSU baseball shirt for 2025 now. Go to Section 103, click on the LSU section, use that promo code AYS at checkout. AYS at checkout, you'll get a 10% discount on your order. Guys, the shirts fit perfectly. The hats fit perfectly. I'm telling you, it is some of the best LSU gear around. Again, Section 103 is where you can go. Use that promo code AYS at checkout to get that 10% off. All right, let me take a quick break. When we come back, we got a lot of baseball to discuss. Stay with us. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way for you to wager on all of your favorite sports, contests, events with the first-to-market odds and lines. Find reviews for all the news for each league, including Major League Baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, combat sports, college sports, esports, and even golf. BetOnline continues to be the top online resource for all of your sports information for live in-game betting, props, and futures. Head on over to BetOnline today and use your mobile device to join and make your first sports bet. Use our promo code BELIEVE50, that's BELIEVE50, BLEAV 50, to receive your 50% off welcome bonus on your first deposit. That's betonline.ag, betonline.ag.
He will sell your house and find you a new. Well, Tyler's the man, he's here for you. If you want to buy or sell, well, it's not too late. Dial 955-0008. Just call 955-0008. Y'all call Tyler, he'll shoot you straight.
Guys, let me tell you about our good friends over at Grand Slam Heating and Air, where your comfort is their top priority. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they promise to provide customers with high-quality HVAC service at an affordable price while ensuring the homeowner peace of mind. From their office to your home, they guarantee the best hassle-free experience around. Efficiency and comfort is their game. Let them make your home Grand Slam today. At Grand Slam Heating and Air, they're offering their annual maintenance plan starting off at $18.75 a month and also doing those $99 tune-up promotions. They provide free estimates for system and ductwork replacement, as well as offering financing to get the job done with no money up front. From Baton Rouge to Hammond to Covington, they're all around. So what you need to do today, give them a call at 225-380-9065. That's 225-380-9065. Or go over to their website, getgrandslamair.com. That's getgrandslamair.com, where your comfort is their top priority. We're back. All right. Let's get to it here. I see that we might be having a little bit of visual problems. Of course. The internet is always going to internet, is it not? The internet is always going to internet. It's okay. All right. So LSU celebrates their national title today, and I did think it was funny that Bear Jones, Kane Anderson, Anthony Ianson, and I forget who else, went to the original Raising Cane's today like they did in the 2023 national championship, and were serving food to people that were going through. I thought that was really funny. But I thought tonight during the celebration, we would look back on the season that was. You know, in the beginning of the season, when you and I talked about the expectations of this team, what were the expectations of LSU going into the 2025 college baseball season? For me, if you remember, it was they got to make it to Omaha or bust. I think they're too talented. I think they've done so many good things. They have so many good players, and they have the best coach, and they have a great coaching staff. For them not to get there, I thought would be a little bit of a downside of what the expectations would be. And, you know, it's funny because in the beginning of the season, I remember, and you probably remember, the first loss that they had on the season was on a Saturday to Omaha. Kind of a little bit of a prequel, because in those comments, I remember a lot of people saying, well, that's the only Omaha that LSU is going to see this year is the team that they're playing. Well, isn't that funny how things worked out? But even then, in February, seeing a team that was trying to figure some things out and trying to figure out what their pitching staff was going to look like, what their lineup was going to look like, who was going to be what was and who was going to be the guys in the outfield. Where were they going to play? Is Kira going to move to center? Is Stanfield going to stay there? Is it going to be Jake Brown in right field every day? What is going to happen? You know, I think about in late February as an example. In game one, when you go up against Kansas State and you're tied with them at 5, and Ironically, a player that you got from the transfer portal in Dardar hits a line drive into left field, and you make a championship level relay to get the out at home with Casey Evans pitching, and you get to play out at home, and you wind up sweeping in Frisco, Texas to win it. You know, it's funny because today when I was getting ready for the show and recapping the season, I quote tweeted this on Twitter saying, and at the time in February, what LSU did in Frisco, Texas was championship level stuff. Now, we can go and check our past history, and we did today because we put it back out on social media. Even then in February, LSU showed championship level resolve, that the moment was never too big for them to be able to overcome any adversity, any obstacle, to where they could overcome it and win a national title. And guys, it even started in February. You know, adversity struck when you lose to Omaha, and then you turn right around after 17s of not hitting the baseball hardly at all and absolutely explode. You have a play where you got Pearson in left field, and he hits a relay to Stephen Milam, and he makes a perfect play, and it's a perfect tag by Luis Hernandez so that you don't lose a game in Frisco. And from that point on, it wasn't without its downsides throughout the season. You know, we talked about losing the series on the road to Texas to start. The second series in the SEC. You got in a scrap fight with Missouri, and even though you swept them, it was a little bit of a dogfight in some of those situations. But even in some of the adversity, you found some of the resolve throughout the team. Like Stephen Milam making an absolute beautiful throw against Kansas State for you to win the game on a relay. And then when you're battling against Texas in game one, there was a young man that everybody had been talking about, that everybody anticipated would be and could be one of the next greats, that being Derek Curiel. And he more than likely is going to be that next great. But against Texas, he hits a backside Apo Taco home run for you to essentially win game one against the team that won the SEC in the regular season, that being Texas. You know, I think about the series to come after that when you're going up against Mississippi State, and a team in Mississippi State the last time that they were in Baton Rouge, and against their 2023 team that they beat you 2 out of 3. And a scrappy team with pitchers like Pico Khan and others. And which a team that, even though nobody wants to admit, made a very decent run at the end there, even to get into the postseason. Because that team in Mississippi State, you faced off against and swept, made it into the postseason. And you got an Ethan Fry home run against a pitcher that's going to hear his name called in the first round in Pico Khan. And then you had the emergence of Ethan Fry. That where from that point forward, Ethan Fry's got to continue to be in the lineup because of the power that he possesses and the things that he was doing. You know, you showed grit when you go into a very hostile environment, and I'm not talking about fans, but a hostile environment where the weather is horrible. And you go into Oklahoma after sweeping Mississippi State, and you go into Oklahoma against a really good pitching staff, and something happened that weekend. So even though in February and in early March, you had saw glimpses of this team being a championship level team, a team where that, man, if they could put this all together, we're going to find them in Omaha. And I think it was the Oklahoma series for me. When I look back on the season and I look back at all the things that this team did, whether it be the Oklahoma series where Bear Jones comes up with a line drive single to win a game, or Cade Anderson in game one goes a complete game, 135 pitch outing, and absolutely dominates. You know, I think for me, when I look back on the season and you sweep Oklahoma and you have an elite performance by Cade Anderson, you have an elite performance by Anthony Ianson, you have an elite performance, but for at the time that it was, a damn strong outing by a guy in Chase Shores who was still in your rotation and a Sunday guy before he moved back to the bullpen. Sound familiar of what this season encompasses? You know, when you look back at the season and you look at all the great accomplishments, you look at what this team was built off of, because Kate Anderson might go 1-1 next week or 2 weeks from now. Kate Anderson might be the top pick in Major League Baseball's draft. The Nationals should make the right decision here. But for me, that Oklahoma series of hostile environment, needing to go on the road, in a bad weather conditions, and coming out with a sweep was when you knew that LSU could do something serious. But it did come with its downfalls. It did come with getting punched in the mouth. You know, going into Auburn and getting swept. Absolutely brutal. Going into Texas A&M and losing 2 out of 3 was brutal. But the thing about those performances for me was that I always felt like that this team bounced back. I felt like this team was able to understand and know that they got to flush the thing that just happened to them, forget about the thing that just happened to them, because there was so much baseball that had to be played and to look forward to. You know, it's ironic. I think about A&M as we're talking about losing that series, and I think about Auburn. You know, guys, Auburn lost to Coastal Carolina in the Super Regional at home. And it was the team that you played in the national title final that you beat in 2 games to get there. You know, things have a way in baseball of coming full circle. That weekend in Auburn, even though it does mean a lot, because it did mean a lot, at the end of it all meant nothing. In the end of it all, it was bad. You'd never want to get swept. I get all of that. But would you rather have gotten swept versus Auburn and taken some of those punches to be able to get where you were and beat the team that did go into Auburn and won? You know, it's funny. We talk about some of the times in the beginning of the season, in the middle of the season, where you show glimpses of being great. And then there was glimpses of you being not so great. There were glimpses of you being like, man, does this team have what it takes to be the national title winner? And then you look up at the end of the season and you say to yourself, well, Tennessee's coming to town. You know, you're going to have a really good idea of what this team can do because Tennessee's coming to town. You win game 1 at 1:17 a.m. of a Bear Jones home run. And then before that, a Derek Curiel 2 RBI single. You go into game 2 against a really tough team and lose on a Saturday. That was the game that, remember, all of you called me a jinx. But you turn right around in game 3 and run rule a team that was in a super regional. You face off against Arkansas in coming weeks at home, and you beat them in game 1 on a walk-off, like you did against Tennessee in game 1. You run rule Arkansas like you did Tennessee. And you sit there and say to yourself, were the highs extremely high? Guys, if I would have told you in the beginning of the season that you would have a series where you take 2 of 3 from Tennessee and Arkansas, and in 2 games you're going to run rule somebody, you would have said, oh, shit, 2023 all over again. Was it not to some extent? Now, I don't think that this team fully hit their offensive capabilities. Like, I still feel like you won a national title, and a lot of times offensively, you were not as great as maybe I think the potential of what you could have been. It didn't matter. So you take your lumps, you take some punches, because you go up against these elite teams and you beat Tennessee 2 out of 3. and cement yourself over the last 3 years of not only having the better head coach, but being in a situation where you take the lead from on-field wins against Tennessee. An Arkansas team that comes to town that ultimately you would play 5 times and you beat them 4 out of the 5 times. 80% of the time you were beating Tennessee, if not a little bit more. And you run ruled them. You know, for me, and I even think I said this after Arkansas, if you can do that against them, you can do it against anybody. You know, the kid that threw the Gage Wood that threw the no-hitter in the College World Series, LSU run ruled him. Jake Brown hit 2 massive bombs against Arkansas at home, and they were flustered. I look back on the season, especially the regular season, and say to myself, yes, in baseball, there's always going to be punches that you take. And sometimes in those punches, it always is about how you respond from it. You know, the thing that's always was this season, toughen together. Toughen together. When we talk about being tough and being together, when you combine those two things, it always is going to come with its adversity. So as tonight that we celebrate this team, I think about the dominating things that you did. You know, it would be funny if we go back and watch the Tennessee series. We go back and watch that Arkansas series and be like, man, that now that everything is over, now that you've won a national title, those instances, even against Auburn, even against A&M, yeah, you had your lows, but man, you had some very big highs. You won 19 games in the SEC. And every time you win 19 games in the SEC, you win a national title. It was special. And us always questioning if they could be and get to the top. And guys, then you get into the postseason. And the SEC tournament, I'm not dictating as the postseason because, quite honestly, I don't think Jay Johnson gave and gives 2 flying shits about the postseason, especially in the SEC postseason, in the SEC tournament when he knows that he's going to be a national seed, and why should he? You know, I was asked today, ironically, about that in reference to, well, Blake, you know, it's funny. It's funny about thinking about Jay Johnson and him winning 2 national titles, and he hasn't even won the SEC yet. Who cares? Guys, who cares? Because I sure as hell don't. It would be cool to do it and have a team that wins the SEC and wins a national title. Cool. But I don't care. Vandy won the SEC tournament. They were bounced in the regional. And in speaking of the postseason, you lost 1 game in the postseason. One. You know, it's ironic. The 2023 team lost 2. You had a hot team in Little Rock that came into Baton Rouge and just beat you in 1 day. And you responded from it in what was another massive moment because you found a superstar. You found a superstar and a guy that you knew that could and probably would be a superstar. In Casey Evans going against Kansas State, you knew that you had something. Again, coming in against Tennessee, got kind of touched up in that game 3 in the beginning, but locked in and was highly impressive. And then coming in against Little Rock and doing what he did when you were down. I felt like the entire season in that regional rolled down into one thing. You got punched in the mouth versus Little Rock, and you had already gone through all of those moments and in all of those situations to be able to respond the way that you did. Luis Hernandez hitting 2 massive bombs, coming out of nowhere, and none of us thought that he would be the guy that would catch every day. But he did, and he was really good at doing it. And in the postseason, guys, let's call it what it is. You dominated. You flat out dominated. You didn't lose after Little Rock. You beat them in that final game. You explode and you don't look back. You dominate West Virginia. You beat Arkansas. You beat UCLA. You beat Arkansas again, and then you don't lose to Coastal Carolina because on the mound and when the moment was the biggest and the brightest, the guys at the plate shined and came through. when you think of national title winners, when you think of and recapping this 2025 season as all of us are going to do at 8 o'clock tonight, I look back and say, this team was toughened together. And you find out how close-knit a team is. You find out how together you are when you get punched in the mouth and you respond from it, and they did it all season long. You know, the thing that I will probably remind or think about the most is that with this team is that I felt as if that there were a lot of people out there that constantly doubted them. And a lot of you constantly doubted Jay Johnson. You know, I make the joke about the Ed Orgeron tweet and the Ed Orgeron comparison. And what's funny about that whole situation is that there was a lot of doubt from the fan base, a lot of doubt from people. I hope this season recompenses and focuses everybody in on, you got to trust the process. You got to trust who Jay Johnson is. You know, Stephen Milan was asked earlier today about, hey, Stephen, who do you think the MVP of the season was? Jay Johnson, he said. And you want to know why? Because every time that we got punched in the mouth, he knew what to do, what to say, and how to get us back on the mountaintop. And that's where you find yourself. The 2025 season was one of the funnest seasons that I can remember. You know, I think of that Alabama series as an example of when you're staring down the barrel of a gun and Ashton Larson, who didn't have the season that he wanted, and hitting the massive home run for you to get a win. Tennessee with Jake Brown, who's splitting time, getting 2 massive bombs for you to run rule Arkansas. Luis Hernandez going off against Tennessee in Game 3 to seal the deal. Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson, who will go down as legends, who dominated the entire SEC. Because, guys, they did. They dominated the SEC. You had the best pitching staff. Now, offensively, you might have not been the best compared to your counterparts. But, man, when the moment was brightest, I feel like guys like Chris Stanfield, who got a 2 RBI single against West Virginia, who got a 2 RBI single against Coastal Carolina in the final. Guys, everywhere you were surrounded by when big moments were the brightest, your guys came through. Derek Carriel the same way. Always being fantastic in the big game situations when ultimately mattered the most. What a team and what a season. And I hope that some of you that will be there and celebrate, and all of you that will watch tonight, it's going to be really fun. But this team was absolutely awesome. All right. Let's do this. I do have a super chat here. Alexander Taylor says, thoughts on Stamps, Ashton Stamps in football being the second highest rated player on LSU's College Football 25 video game roster. That's guys, come on. Come on. I like Ashton, but come on. I saw he got a 96 rating. I don't agree with that rating. Hopefully he does. Here's what I hope. Alexander, I hope that they see something that we have not seen yet and the kid plays like that. Because if he does, you're going to be really good. Going to be really good. All right, we're going to come back. Jay Johnson gives update about the portal. We'll talk about that next. Let me get to a quick break. Stay with us. Hey, guys, I want to tell you about our good friends over at Red Stick Financial. They're your local residential mortgage broker located right here in the heart of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. At Red Stick Financial, they find the bank that works for your particular set of needs to purchase the home of your dreams or refinance the current one. They truly are your partners in this process, and they pride themselves in helping individuals and families with one simple goal in mind, and that is to make home financing approachable, attainable, and stress-free. They are licensed in all Louisiana, Texas, and Mississippi. So from Amarillo to Meridian and everything in between, they have you covered. Red Stick Financial brings you creative, customized solutions, and they don't believe in the one-size-fits-all when it comes to loans. They even have special options for mobile and manufactured homes located in a flood zone and stated income financing for those of us who are self-employed borrowers. If you or someone you know is looking to buy a home, refinance an existing mortgage, or simply want to know what options are out there for your future, give Red Stick Financial a call today at 225-407-9250. That's 225-407-9250. Or check him out online at redstickfinancial.com. That's redstickfinancial.com. Before you purchase the home of your dreams or you go and do that refinance, you need to go local. Go Red Stick. Hey, Southwest Louisiana. Are you ready to gear up for your next outdoor adventure or tackle that next big job on the farm? Then head on over to Henderson Tractors, Boats, and Power Sports. At Henderson and Lake Charles, they've got everything you need under one massive 30,000 square foot indoor showroom. Kubota tractors and mowers to power through the toughest tasks. Polaris off-road bikes and side-by-sides to conquer any trail. And tracker boats with brands like Ranger, Nitro, Sun Tracker, and Regency pontoons for a day out on the water. Whether you're a farmer or a hunter or just someone who loves the great outdoors, Henderson has what you need to get the job done and have fun while doing it. Browse their new and used inventory over at their website, hendersonimplement.com. That's hendersonimplement.com. Or give them a call today at 337-436-4366. That's 337-436-4366. Or go see them over in Lake Charles on the corner of East McNee Street and Highway 14. Remember, if you need a tractor, go to Henderson. Need a boat? Go to Henderson. Or if you need an ATV or side-by-side, you know where to go. Henderson. Just let them know that your good friend Blake Ruffino over at AYS sent you on by. So, very quickly, I want to bring up our good friends over at Service Hawk Digital Media with the right leads, smart systems, and real growth. You need to get a marketing system that works for you today. Go over to servicehawk.io. That's servicehawk.io today to be able to get those right systems, right leads, smart systems, and real growth. You're an HVAC, you are a generator pro, electrical pro, whatever job it is that you do. If you are in business, if you own a business, run a business, you know that marketing is a massive part of you getting those leads that you need. Go over to Service Hawk Digital Media today. Let them know that your good friend Blake at AYS sent you on by. So this is what we're going to do. I see that LSU is already fired up the celebration, and they said that they will be live with it in 3 minutes. This is what we're going to do. We are going to punt on the football talk very quickly. We'll punt that to tomorrow. And we're going to talk about Jay Johnson's update about the portal very quickly. You know, it's funny. We've gone through this 2 times with Jay Johnson where he's won a national title. And in that process, recruiting still being a massive thing, especially in the portal and what they need to do. And in both times, Jay Johnson in 2023 and then again today, when he was on the MLB network talking about his stress level of recruiting in the portal and the timing being very bad in the portal or for the portal and recruiting in the portal when you're in Omaha trying to win a national title. Now, Jay Johnson did come out with a statement today, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit further on what he stated. Jay Johnson said on the MLB network today that they have really started to line up visits and get things lined up for the upcoming days after the celebration today. He would go on to say that he believes and he was going to get through this and go on. Now, he really stressed and says he believes that there should be a different timetable for recruiting in the portal for those teams that make it Omaha because it's not fair to them. I 1,000% agree with him. I think that the portal timeline for what is going on for either football and baseball is really bad, and it's a horrible timing. I understand it, but some of these kids are able to go to Tennessee or come into Arkansas early because those teams are not in the final or those teams aren't in Omaha. All I would say is that baseball needs to figure it out, and it's the easiest way and easiest sport to figure that out, mainly due to the fact because you got the whole summer to react to this from an academic standpoint. But in reference to what Jay Johnson said, in reference to we are lining things up. Guys, this is what I'll tell you. There are a couple of positions that I know that they're looking at. Pitching and guys on the mound, whether it be a starting rotation role or that being coming out of the bullpen, is where they're going to be attacking pretty heavily in the next couple of days. We talked about a couple names like Kershaw. We talked about a couple names like Landon Mack the other day. I do think that those names are going to be some names that you're hearing in the very near future, but I would anticipate, and this is what I'd say, I do think tomorrow will be a massive portal update because I do think some of these names are going to be coming out, visits being lined up, and guys that they're going to get. I don't believe, so I want to anticipate this, I don't believe unless some things happen in the draft, which could easily happen, some guys that you maybe anticipate thinking that are coming here that don't, that could happen. So at the current moment, from some people that I've discussed and talked with, I don't know if LSU goes out and gets 10 guys in the portal the way that they did a season ago. I do think the comfortable number would be anywhere between 5 being the outright small, the least, and they're already at 2, so it'd be 3 more. I don't think that that's happening. I think the number 7 to 8 makes a little bit more sense. Again, could easily change based off of losing Bear Jones, losing Cade Anderson, losing Anthony Ianson. I do think LSU feels as if that they can get good performances by a guy like Devin Sheeran, who, if you remember, Devin Sheeran was one of the top guys in the portal that didn't play this year because of a torn ACL, who right now is absolutely tearing up summer ball. You return Kason Evans. Can Maverick Rizzi, William Schmidt, Cooper Williams develop into some of those arms that you're going to really be relying on next year? I think that that's where they want to go, and then top off in the portal with some arms that they can bring in. I do think that you need another catcher, depending on what you want to do, what happens with some of the situations there. I do think Cade Arrambide will start. But even though Cade Arrambide is starting, I do think that you need some depth there. We'll see what they do there. I do think that they'll continue to look for some position players. I know that there got some guys that play in the outfield more in the corners than in center field that they're going to look at. There's been some chatter. I don't know the decision that's going to be made that Chris Stanfield may return. So we'll see what happens there. I think that right now they are trying to ascertain on guys that may be coming back and guys that may be leaving, and then lining up some of these things. I know that you want it right now. I can tell you for an outright certainty, there are going to be arms that are coming in here that LSU's trying to lock down. I think that that is a main focus for them right now as well, to add on to the elite guys that we know and think that you will turn into be. Because Maverick Rizzi was a freshman. William Schmidt was a freshman. Cooper Williams was a freshman. Kason Evans was a freshman. That's a lot to lean on with a lot of talent. Can those guys develop, progress, and get better will be the main question. I think that they will, and you're going after some there. I will say I do think that they want a little bit more power than they had this season across the lineup. You know, like Bear Jones had 20-plus home runs. That's a lot to replace. I do think that they're going to look for a little bit more. I think Simpson provides that for you. I think Dardar provides that for you. Can they get a little bit more power? And what they're looking and where they're looking at will be the main question here. The thing that I will point out is I think that they found a direction that they want to go, and character will be a massive thing for this. Do you fit for what Jay Johnson and LSU wants to do? Mac, Frazier, Kosher, or Kircher, those are some names to look out for. There will be some others. Let's make sure that those visits are lined up and ready to go before we come out here and start really talking about them, and we will do that very, very soon. All right. LSU is underway with their celebration here, so let's get to that. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. Since the celebration is already starting, we can all go watch it. Sorry we did not get to the football update. I promise you we will get to that tomorrow as we close up tomorrow as well. All right. Y'all have a good night. Peace out, Girl Scouts.